Why should you listen to me when it comes to sleep and mental health? First of all, I've had severe insomnia. I have sleep apnea and had some of the worst sleep you can imagine. These days, I have sleep scores more like this. In addition to this, I was a high performer. I've had all the fancy cars, I've done all the materialistic stuff, and it made me miserable. I looked like this. I was tired, I was wrecked. These days, I look more like this. I've helped not just myself, but a number of other people to achieve better sleep, become more productive, become more consistent. So if you're interested in somebody who's actually walked the walk, who's got practical experience, and is obsessed with sleep and performance, then this video might be for you. In terms of what you're going to get from this is a video about mental health and sleep, because mental health is one of the key components to getting good sleep. One of the biggest pain points I find in mental health is everyone speaks about it in a theoretical way, but not a practical way. So this video will give you actual practical ways to improve your mental health. I'm going to give real painful examples of actually what mental health was for me and my personal issues. And I'm going to give you a different overview and some different concepts which may give you a aha moment in terms of your own mental health journey. The big principle I want to get out here is that mental health isn't something you have or you don't have. Someone might say, oh, I've got good mental health, or I've got bad mental health. They are both wrong. Mental health isn't a binary choice, it's a scale. So it's going from 0 to 10. Everybody in the world is on this scale. Very, very few people are a 0 and very, very few people are a 10. We're all on this scale and we can all improve or worsen our position on the scale. Now, where we are based on the scale is based on many things. Our childhood, our genetics, our age, our country, our location, how much sun we get. It is complicated, but the main thing is to understand we're on a scale and we have some control and power to move on it. Don't have the arrogance to think that your mental health is perfect, because nearly no one's is, and it can always fall back if we do not work on it. It's something that should be a lifelong ambition for anybody watching this video, to be always mindful and be working on your mental health. And the more you work on it, the more you do the right actions, the more you seek help, the more likely you are to be moving in a positive direction. Next up, I want to talk about some common misconceptions about mental health. There are 3 big misconceptions. One is basically the boomer generation or the older generations who don't even know what it is. They don't even know what mental health is. They see a big stigma around it, and this is especially common amongst older people or more traditional countries where it's just seen as a weird thing. Next of all is a group of people, which is, I'd say, the consensus in the West, which just say, oh, we'll see a psychologist. That's their answer to everything when it comes to mental health. See a psychologist. And I've seen loads of psychologists, and I suspect a lot of people watching this have seen lots of psychologists. And we're sort of wising up now that it's not the only solution. Psychologists are not the only people who know everything about mental health, because the reality is they do not. And we're going to cover practical areas which psychologists are missing on when it comes to your mental health. So I'm not against psychologists, but I'm just saying there's way more than just looking at psychologists and psychology and therapy. The third bracket is basically, let's say, the Andrew Tate or the ultra right-wing masculine area, which is, it isn't real. All you need to do is work out and lift some weights and you'll no longer have mental health issues. While I actually agree with them in some parts, the reality is they're also wrong. Let's look at mental health in a holistic manner, looking at many different components that connect to it. So we'll start off with education. So literally the fact that you might be watching this video shows that you're looking to learn, that you're actually educating yourself on mental health. By learning more about it, that it's real, getting different perspectives, finding out things that worked, it's a step forward. Just by doing that, let's say you're starting here, you've made a little step forward because you're actually at least willing to learn about it. Some people will go their whole lives without learning anything about mental health and they wonder why they have bad mental health, or they don't even know they have it. Next is Gremlins. So I'm going to give you an example of this. For most of my life, if I went to a gym, I'd be having thoughts in my head like, this guy's bigger than me, this guy's better looking than me, oh, this person's got great genetics, oh, this person's pathetic, oh, this person, like constantly having negative thoughts in my mind about people, how they see me and everything else. And it's not just a gym, it would be nightclubs. I'd be thinking like this, like all these sort of thoughts come into my head, like I'm not good enough, or I shouldn't be here, or oh, I'm maybe looking weird, or did that person look at me in this weird, like we all have different gremlins. They are a whole plethora of things that can go through your mind, but it is something that holds a lot of us back, because the thing is, we're never taught on how to think. We're never taught what thoughts are okay and what are not, because we're only us, right? No lessons at school, no lessons at university. You just go through life thinking in a certain way because that's basically how you've always thought. And a lot of people start realizing, especially when we're lower on the mental health curve, that a lot of our thoughts aren't actually helpful. And they're actually not just unhelpful, they are outright destructive. It's okay to have some negative thoughts, but trust me, you start realizing a lot of them aren't rational thoughts. They're just the gremlins inside of you. And this can stop you from ever progressing if you're not careful. But it all begins with actually understanding, this thought might not be true. So the whole idea is that not all your thoughts are real, and not all of them should be listened to. You get one step up if you just acknowledge that a thought might be bullshit, or that it might be a gremlin. Just understanding that gremlins are a thing is a start. Next, we'll talk about therapy. Now, I'm going to be very brief on this. Ultimately, a lot of us will benefit from therapy. Licensed, educated psychologists obviously have a massive understanding of mental health. I don't want to dismiss them by any way or form. However, how many times has a therapist asked you about your diet? How many times has a therapist asked you about your sleep? How many times has asked you about your social skills and your relationships, your goals, your purpose? How many therapists have asked you about your hormones? Have you had a blood test with your therapist? Do you know what your hormones are like? How many therapists have asked you about your exercise? Are they like, you may be getting the point that therapy isn't the answer to everything. It is part of the holistic approach. So this is why I'm doing this video. If you see a therapist, it's definitely normally a positive thing. So you're taking one more step up the ladder. Next is diet. Now, ultimately, if you eat poorly, you will feel bad. The science backs this, but you just holistically know it, right? Our body needs nutrients, and if it's not getting the right nutrients, if it's getting very little fiber, very few vitamins, minerals, a lot of the junk food, processed food we're fed these days is awful. It's not giving your body what it actually needs. Therefore, if you start being sluggish, if you start looking bad, your skin gets oily, your hair starts falling out, it gets thinner, of course you're going to feel worse, and it's going to have massive impacts on mental health. Therefore, diet is like one of the best starting points in terms of looking at improving your mental health. So when we look at diet, one more thing. Let's just say you educate yourself by watching a YouTube video about nutrition, and you maybe change a little bit in your diet. One more step. Next, to look at sleep. Now, obviously, I am the sleep guy. I'm obsessed with sleep. It's all I talk about, and this is the area I focus on. This is my sleep scores in 2021, and this wasn't the worst. It was much worse before this. I only bought the Garmin when my sleep was actually getting better, because it seemed worth to measure it when it's better. So you can't imagine how bad the scores would have been before this. Now, ultimately, sleep has a massive impact on mental health. You are 3 to 4 times more likely to have depression if you have insomnia. It is scary statistics. If you've ever had this feeling that you go to sleep and the next day you wake up and everything's fine, you're like dreading, you're in horror, stress, and the next day you wake up and everything's fine. That's what sleep does. It cleanses emotions. It deals with all the back end, all the problems in your brain. So with poor sleep, it's extremely hard to have good mental health. Therefore, when we're looking at the ladder again, if we can just learn a little bit more about sleep, if we can get a little bit of sunlight in the morning, we're taking one more little step. Next is relationships and social skills. Now, in 2021, I was kind of a bit like forever alone. I literally had only one friend. My girlfriend dumped me, and I was kind of like, even though I had a lot of things going for me, and I've got to be honest on that, I felt like this. I learned the hard way that my social skills were quite weak. I had someone tell me that no one really liked me because all I did was talk about myself. I realized at a late point in my life that my relationships was terrible and my social skills needed a lot of work. I think I'm not alone in that. I think a lot of people, their social skills are not as good as they think, and their relationships aren't as strong as they think. And if you also lack the ability to create new ones, that can be very damaging for your mental health. We need people. We are social creatures. So if you're struggling socially, it is going to have an impact on your mental health. So a fantastic step up would be maybe reading a book like How to Win Friends and Influence People, or just saying hello to somebody, or smiling at somebody. Even a little smile at a person at reception or a shop is a little step forward to what maybe we were doing before. Next is goals and purpose. If you have no goals, and if you don't know what your purpose is, how can you be happy? How can you have good mental health? Just logically, life becomes pointless, right? You can become nihilistic. Therefore, trying to build up goals and actually have purpose in life is a fundamental fact that will help. Writing them down is the best thing. So these are the goals I wrote in 2021. So I had one which is have a streamline, which basically means have a nice body. I wanted to do MRFs. I want to get a six-pack, keep challenging myself. I wanted to make my company a lot of money. Talk to more people, make new friends, be someone of high value, meditate, be okay on my own. So I always felt very lonely when I was on my own. Allow myself to have fun. Lots of goals here that I had, but these took time, and a lot of my life I had no goals. So in many ways, this was step one of me fixing my mental health, actually having goals and working towards them. Because without goals, it's very hard to move forward. Now, a lot of people are so far down in the pits that they can't even think of a goal. But trust me, you can think of something, even something tiny, like I want to tie my shoelaces, or I want to be able to wake up earlier tomorrow. These are goals, but start committing to goals, and a little step up the ladder will just be something simple. Setting a little goal, working on your goals. And another thing I'll say about goals is they are a skill. If you're watching this and you think you're going to set great goals tomorrow, you are wrong. You will probably make bad goals. Because the reality is, if you've not set any goals for years or a long time, you're going to be bad at it. I was terrible at it. A lot of these goals I failed. Most of them I failed. But that's okay. The next set of goals I set, I did better. And the next set I did better. So a key thing with goals is it is a skill. You've got to keep on doing it. This is why New Year's resolutions fail for so many people. Because they only set the goal once a year. That means if you only play piano once a year, you're going to be terrible. If you only go to the gym once a year, you're going to be terrible. It's the same as anything else. So the key with goals, see it as a skill. See it as something that you progressively work on. Next is limiting beliefs. So a lot of us have beliefs about ourselves, which normally come in from childhood. And I think the best way is to show you mine from 2021. I had a very dark belief in myself that I was ugly. This is probably the worst thing in my life. I was convinced I was ugly. Some kid at school told me this when I was maybe 10, 12, 13, maybe a little bit older. And then basically from that point on, I believed I was ugly. And I'd ignore anything that would say the opposite, any evidence that would suggest I'm not. And anyone who said something that would suggest I am, I'd listen to, and I would, during all my life, if anyone, I could be in the happiest mood ever, and someone said something that made me feel like I'm ugly, it'd ruin my day. My whole life evolved around this belief that I was ugly, and that I wasn't worthy, and I had terrible genetics. And it was literally only probably in the last few years that I finally be able to break through this. Now you can see me, you can make your own judgments, but ultimately what matters is what I think. And I had to really delve deep into this one. Now the reality is, just for the record, that I was ugly in some ways. I was. Like, this guy is not very handsome, let's be totally honest. He had to do a lot of work on himself. But there were things we could do about it. So is it true? Partly. But can we do something about it? Yes. I had a belief I was too old. In 2021, I was just convinced I was too old to do anything new in my life. I was done now. I'm only going to get older. I'm past my peak. Is it true? Obviously not, as I'm in much better shape now than I was in 2021. I feel like a second youth, honestly. But at the time, that's what I believed. I didn't believe I was enough. I believed I was a bad sleeper. Is it true? Technically, I was a bad sleeper. Could we do something about it? Yes. And am I a bad sleeper now? No. And there's so many of these. Another one I'll give is I'm bad at languages. So at school, my Spanish teacher told me that, but basically just belittled me all the time. My Spanish teacher just was always horrible to me, always saying I'm bad, and she thought I was a total idiot. And that made me believe I was bad at languages. Many years ago, I was in a Czech lesson, a group Czech lesson, and a guy earning 6 figures, fancy car, managing people, doing public speaking. That's who I was. And here I was in a room with other people, and when the teacher asked me a question in Czech, I froze. Like my whole chest was like constricted. I couldn't barely speak. I could barely breathe. And I realized then that I've been held back from childhood traumas about languages. These days, am I fluent in Czech? No, but I've made huge progress. And my Czech is way better than I could ever imagine. And it's because I asked myself, am I really bad at languages? And reality is, I can't be. There's 5 billion people who speak 2 or 3 languages. Out of that 5 billion, a lot of them are absolute idiots. So I can't be that bad. Action, just start challenging this belief. So this is just for me. These took me years and years of my life to get over, and it's been painful, and some of them I still have to keep on doing the work for, but this is a key part of mental health, is attacking these limiting beliefs. So just by accepting they might be limiting beliefs is one step up the ladder. Next is testosterone and hormones. So long story short, at this point, let's be honest, I probably didn't have very high testosterone. Especially before this, I was overweight, I was flabby, I wasn't looking very healthy, I wasn't very motivated or driven. Now, a lot of people don't realize the impact your hormones make on your mental health. If your hormones are out of whack, it's very hard to be happy. Hormones are dictated by a lot of things, by your diet, by your sleep, by your relationships, a lot of different factors, supplements. These days, I'm very happy to say I got very high testosterone. I've not taken any cheats, I've not taken TRT, this has all been naturally done. But it was a lot of work. And this is from 2022 actually, so I need to get a new one, but basically my testosterone levels, not bad. So if you wanted to take a step forward, it'd just be something simple. Get your testosterone checked or get your hormones checked, and then learn a little bit about what you can do to improve them. Now, last but not least, exercise. As we've seen, I did not look like this for a lot of time. I was looking like this. Where did I start with exercise? I didn't start with Spartan races. I started by taking the stairs at work. Once I started taking the stairs at work, I started doing 5 push-ups a day. Because I realized if I went to the gym 5 times in a week, I'd probably quit in 4 weeks' time. Because that's what always happened, and that's what happens to everybody. But if I start by just doing 5 push-ups, maybe I can do that. And I did. And then you build a bit of confidence because, oh, I did that. And I did it again. And I did it again. Sometimes you screw up, but then you go back on the wagon. And once you do 5 push-ups, maybe I'll do 10. And once you do 10, maybe do 15. Maybe fall back down. But here's the thing, you gain confidence in yourself. And before you know it, you're doing 30 push-ups a day. Then it's like, okay, maybe I'm gonna go to the gym. I go to the gym. Only once, and I keep on doing push-ups and then I fail. But what you see is we build trust in ourselves and we keep on progressing forwards. And within not that long period of time, I went from only doing 5 push-ups a day to doing Spartan races, to going to the gym 5-6 times a week. These days, I go to the gym, 5-6 times a week. I do a Murph every month. I do Spartan races 3 times a year. I'm probably in some of the best shape of my life at 36. But it didn't start that way. It was this. So Same thing. Let's start by doing 5 push-ups a day. Just baby steps. Now, you probably get where I'm going with this. This is going to be exactly like we said. We take all these little steps forward. We work on all these holistic steps. And then we fall down. We'll screw up. We'll have a week where we booze, play video games, do bad stuff, and we have to start building up again. But this is the beauty. We start working on these things. We start doing little small steps on all of them. Little baby steps. Nothing crazy. We're not going to get massive increase in testosterone. We're not going to go crazy with the education or the exercise, the therapy. They take time. But instead of going like this, which is most people's experience, and we never break out this line, this way we keep on taking steps. And what happens eventually is we more go into this. And over time, you gain momentum, you gain energy, you gain trust in yourself, and before you know it, your mental health is in a totally different planet. From here seems impossibly far. It seems nearly impossible to go from A to Z. But when you break it down to these small, tiny little steps, suddenly they add up. And these tiny steps can move mountains. This is basically a story of how I got to a point where mental health is good. I would say personally, my mental health is in the very high range here. Probably an 8 out of 10. I'm grateful for everything in my life. I don't have gremlins anymore. I don't need to see therapy, but I'm not against it. I eat like an absolute champion. I sleep extremely well. I would say my social and relationship skills are high tier. I'm very clear on my goals and my purpose. I have very few limiting beliefs. I've got very good testosterone and hormones. I'm at a very high level in exercise, and I've got an education level where I feel I can educate other people. Now, again, this is constant work. A few weeks or months of not doing this, I can fall back to being a 3 or 4. But it's all these little baby steps. So this is the key takeaway from this video. But for those who are very curious, who really genuinely want to change and learn, then I'm very grateful to have you on this little journey with me. And if you found it valuable, I'd appreciate you can share it with somebody who might need the help. And if you are interested in becoming more productive, consistent, improving your sleep, of which part of that journey is improving your mental health, then I'm here. Much love.